Everybody's talking about the rather sad and unfortunate incident that happened at the Likono ferry yesterday, Sunday. My heart goes out to the relatives and close friends of the victims. My deep and sincere condolences. Now, if you've been to Mombasa, chances are very high that you've been on the Likono ferry. There are only 3 ways, many people don't know this. There are only 3 ways of getting onto Mombasa Island. And of course one of them is the Likono ferry. The other 2 are of course the Nyali Bridge and the man-made Kipevu Causeway, which you have to use if you're driving from Nairobi going into Mombasa. Now, I've often heard people asking, why don't they build a bridge? Like the Nyali Bridge, but this time crossing from the island onto the south coast. Well, the simple answer is that that bridge, even if it's fairly high, would block ships from accessing the very busy Kilindini Harbour. And so for years, the government-owned Kenya Ferry Services have run a fairly efficient ferry service and fairly safe that crosses from the island to the south coast, taking you on to Ukunda, Msambweni, on to the Lunga border with Tanzania. It is roughly a 1.5 hour drive from the Likono ferry using your personal vehicle to reach the border at Lunga, and then crossing over to Horohoro on the Tanzanian side. Bottom line, this is a very busy part of Mombasa. And if for any reason ferry services are disrupted, which has happened on a few occasions, then it becomes a national crisis. That is how important the Likono ferry is. Now, I thank you for your patience, because that background was very important. Because we need to understand the kind of pressures the folks at Kenya Ferry Services are under. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make any excuses on their behalf. Because currently, I can see the telltale signs of a cover-up. Because it should not be possible for a car to slide backwards into the ocean. From the ferry, that should never happen. Because the extreme front and the extreme back of the ferry are supposed to be lifted up as soon as the vehicles are all inside the ferry. Standard safety precaution. I have been on the ferry when the waters have been quite rough. And you see the ferry being tossed up and down. And usually it takes a little longer to cross from either side. And mercifully, on all those occasions, as far as I can remember, both the back and the front ends have been up, preventing any car from rolling out of the ferry onto the ocean. But on Sunday, it was down when the vehicle of Miriam Kigenda, 35 years old, who was in the vehicle with her 4-year-old daughter, slid into the ocean and submerged. Now, the official police report says that the brakes of the vehicle, a Toyota Isis KCB 289C, failed, and therefore the vehicle slid backwards, just as the ferry, MV Harambee, that's the name of the ferry, was about to dock on the island side. Now, to me, that kind of statement is the kind of statement that seems to be trying to make excuses, even before people have complained. Because the truth is, the ferry was not about to dock. It was roughly just past the center of the crossing. I think the idea of saying it was about to dock has to do with the fact that normally the front end is lowered as the ferry is about to dock. So it's supposed to give an impression that as the front was being lowered, this vehicle slid. Nothing like that, because the vehicle was right at the back of the ferry. And the back is not supposed to be lowered when it's about to dock on the front side. Unfortunately, there's yet another safety precaution that was not enforced. Motorists are usually advised that when you get your vehicle onto the ferry, you're supposed to switch off your engine completely and get out of your car. Now, Mombasa is very hot and humid. So actually it's not practical to remain in your car because with the engine off completely, you cannot run your air conditioning. And so, even if you don't want to follow rules, it is not practical to remain in your vehicle. Although what I often see motorists do is that they roll down their windows and remain in their vehicles. Now I have to say this. The problem we have is that some motorists do not want to mix with ordinary Kenyans who may not be lucky enough to own a vehicle. Now I would understand that kind of behavior from a visitor or a tourist who may be scared of being robbed. But surely not a local. Hopefully, going forward, and with this tragedy still fresh on the minds of many, this particular safety precaution will be enforced. And the public will understand why it is important. A car is not a perfect machine because it has been manufactured, it has been made by the imperfect hands of a man. And even a ferry, the same. Bottom line, anything can happen. And that is precisely why we have safety precautions and rules. For instance, traffic rules. Let me quickly give you an example of a traffic rule very few people follow. Braking distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. It is something that is taught in every good driving school. But driving on Kenyan roads, and this has happened to me so many times, the car behind gets irritated just because I'm maintaining a safe distance between myself and the car in front of me. And when they overtake, they say something like, "We mzee unalala barabarani." Now, if truth be told, I've often gotten very irritated. But about 4 months ago, something very interesting happened. A black SUV overtook me in a very irritated manner, driving at over 100 kilometers an hour. And obviously this young man had never heard of this thing called braking distance. Because I could see for several kilometers, he tailed the car ahead of me at high speed before finally overtaking it. We were on the Nakuru-Nairobi highway. And just before Kikopey, where people like stopping to eat nyama choma, we saw that there had been an accident. The black SUV had rammed into another vehicle from the back. But instead of feeling self-righteous, I could only feel great pity, because it looked very bad. And chances were that even if I wanted to, I would not have been able to stop and lecture that driver about braking distance. Because chances were he was no longer on this earth. Folks, rules are not there to inconvenience you. Just remember that the next time. Now about the Likoni accident, I want you to realize this was not an issue of swimming. No. Because I saw on a certain social media platform somebody saying something to the effect, I should take swimming lessons. Irrelevant in this instance, and I'll tell you why. The challenge Mariam Kigenda faced on Sunday is something that takes pilots and other military personnel hours of specialized training to master. How to get out of a vehicle or even an aircraft that is sinking in water. For starters, shortly after the vehicle hits the water, the doors encounter pressure of 600 pounds per square inch from the water. So even if you're the strongest man on earth, you will not be able to open that door. There's no way you can open the door. You can only try to open the door after the vehicle has been fully submerged underwater, and water has entered the vehicle completely. That is when the pressure outside and inside the car start to balance. And I've used the word try deliberately because in many instances, people have still failed to be able to open the door for various reasons. Now, this is what experts advise in case you're in the very unfortunate situation where your car lands inside water. Number one, open the windows as fast as possible. If possible, before the car hits the water. Or if not possible, immediately it hits the water. before it actually submerges or before the water reaches the window. Open it very quickly. In fact, open all the windows as quickly as you can. Number 2, and I found this very difficult because it may not be practical, because the first thing that would happen is panic. But they advise don't panic, and instead wait until the water reaches your chin and then take a deep breath. And don't do anything until the car is fully underwater. Yeah, and then of course use the open window to get out. And don't worry about sinking. Yeah, because if you've taken a deep breath, you will float to the top. If you didn't manage to open your windows, if you didn't have the time, then don't try and break the windscreen. Instead, go for the side windows. Why? Because the windscreen is several layers thick. Yeah, several layers thicker than your side windows. Much harder to break. Yeah, you have a better chance with the windows on your side or on the sides of the car. Now, very sadly, at the time I was making this recording, the vehicle or its occupants had not yet been recovered. Yeah, and that may not be very surprising because the Likoni crossing at its deepest is 55 meters deep. Oh boy, my condolences once again to the families and close friends of the bereaved. But please allow me to urge drivers on Kenyan roads, Kenyans mostly, once again, rules are not there to inconvenience you. They could actually, one day, save your life. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.